Hello, Steve here again with yet another bat rep, third one of the day, and I'm reporting on the second game that I had into Marcel last week, and he stuck with his Madrak3 list, and I wanted to try out something brand new, so I'm trying out what is known on the Crucible Guard Discord as Ass Mountain, although I do prefer to call it Mount Ass more. Now, the reason why there's so much ass is because this is a Gearhart list with 2 units of assault troopers. But also in the list, I've got Aurum Ominous As Alas Mark. I've got a Suppressor and a Vindicator. I've got 2 Death Ass Cons. I've got 2 Ascendant Mentalists. I've got some failed experiments and also a unit of Combat Alchemists. That's a lot of ass. As I said, this is a list that I picked up from the Crucible Guard Discord. Lots of other people have been playing it, and it's quite an interesting idea because it's very, very resistant to shooting. It's kind of a medium-based infantry spam that Gearhart can protect to a certain extent. And so it's not your typical Gearhart shooting list. It doesn't have a Vulcan in it, which is interesting. It does have 2 Death Archons, and it has a suppressor and a vindicator in the battle group, which is a little bit different from what the typical Gearhart list used to be. And it's very melee focused, and it's quite grindy, and it hits really hard while it also skews death a little bit. So yeah, quite an interesting archetype, and I wanted to see if I could have more success into that Madrak3 list that's super grindy, super hard hitting, long threat range, hard to kill Madrak3 list. So Marcel's Madrak list, just in case you aren't looking at the previous bat rep, is Madrak3 and Band of Heroes, Rune Bearer, Brawler, Pyre Troll, Basher, Boomy 3, Felcaller Hero, Dunian Archon, Stone Scribe Chronicler, a full unit of Femblades with the CA, full unit of Long Riders, full unit of Champs with no Scaldy, and Linus and Adria to help deal with Crucible Guard Clouds. Here's what the table looked like. Once again, I lost the roll off to go first, so Marcel once again decided to go first. And just like before, his first turn is always very fast. He can move up very far with those cavalry. So his first move looked like this. Basically running up as far as he can, trying to stay out of threat range of the Vindicator, although that's kind of difficult because of snipe on Gearhart. And other than that, just running up and trying to get to me. So the way I see myself dealing with this is by trying to control those Long Riders as much as possible to buy myself time for grinding out the rest of his list. And I've got 2 options for doing that. So my Combat Alchemists with Snipe were able to put down some, and also with Bloody Well Done, are able to put down some ice cages onto his leader for the Long Riders. So if I was able to tag him 3 times with those grenades, then he is stationary, which means he can't do any orders anymore, which really limits the damage output on those Long Riders, despite the fact Madrak can still make them weapon masters. And the other alternative is to try and tag those cavalry with Shadowbind Gun on Gearhart. And so, unfortunately, I was unsuccessful on making that guy the unit leader stationary, but I did tag him with the Shadowbind Gun, which meant that his threat range on his cavalry was on a hard limit of 13 inches. And I respected those 13 inches with my assault troopers on the right-hand side and my Jack and my Mentalists, and I tried to bait him out by putting some failed experiments out there to try and get him to inefficiently kill those and put himself in threat range of the rest of my army. And on the left-hand side, also tried to bait him out with failed experiments for the Fen Blades. And trying to keep those assault troopers back and the Death Archons back for the counterpunch. The second Death Archon is over on the right-hand side of the screen, but it's very hard to see, hidden up behind that house. So Marcel's second turn was also his feet turn, as it usually is if he's going first. and he managed to kill a couple of failed experiments on the right with those cavalry, and then using Hoof It, he's able to do a huge reposition back outside of the threat range of the rest of my army, which is a little bit frustrating. And on the left-hand side, he went in with the Fen Blades and was able to kill the experiments that I put out in front. And then I think reposition. I think they can reposition once or mini feet or something forwards into the rest of my lines. So yeah, he's basically given me a chance to counterpunch. So that's what I did. So on the left-hand side, managed to clear out those Fen Blades and also even get to the champions and put a lot of damage onto that unit, so they haven't got much damage left on those guys. And this time I managed to stationary that Long Rider unit leader and also put Shadow Bind onto another one of those Long Riders. So that severely limits their capabilities. I'm also covering my assault troopers on the right with failed experiments again, and also this time the combat alchemists are in the way too. I've repositioned my death archon on the right hand side in order to counterpunch on the following turn, allowing him to charge. And on the left hand side, I got a chance to do a lot of damage into a lot of trolls. So it's a really interesting list because it hits really hard. It doesn't necessarily want to take an alpha, except on the failed experiments on the front line, and you can skew the def on them. And yeah, it's quite a fun list, and I'm definitely going to want to play this again in the future. But yeah, so Marcel had a chance to have another turn, which he did. And again, both of our clocks getting very low this time. I think Marcel had a huge clock advantage, but he used this turn and used up a lot of his clock. So he had a fairly blunt turn, not a lot of damage done. I think he took out the last of the failed experiments on the right. Didn't have anywhere near as much luck on the left because of all those stacking def buffs. And yeah, he started to work his way ahead on scenario though, so he's able to get his Dunian Archon onto the flag on the right hand side and score his zone, and generally make it so that there's a small amount of pressure on me. So we've got plenty of turns left and I'm the second player, but I'm running out of time. He's slightly ahead on scenario, and that basically puts him in the winner's seat as long as I can't creep ahead on scenario. Unfortunately, if I had lots of clock left, then I could probably just grind out the attrition pretty easily and maybe get ahead. But unfortunately, I'm getting very low on clock once again. So here's my next turn. Even more damage done. Really started to break the back of his Madrak list. Managed to not let him get ahead on scenario, but unfortunately I can't score more points than him, so I couldn't neutralize his little scenario advantage. So yeah, it's not an ideal situation, but the attrition is definitely going in my direction. And the next term for Marcel, he committed even more, did what he could, and he crept up even more on scenario. He actually managed to contest my zone in this turn as well. So he's basically doing exactly what he should be. I really think so at this point I didn't really have enough time to carry out my turn. I think I had about 2 minutes left. But if I had time to play out my entire turn, then I could probably almost table his whole army. But unfortunately, this is my first game with this list, and I was playing super slow because I was trying to remember all my rules, and I was trying to feel out how the list actually plays. So at that point, I decided to concede because I didn't really see that I had enough time left to do enough attacks to stop him from winning on scenario, or from winning on scenario. But apart from that, it really felt like the game was going in my favour. So I feel pretty positive about this list, actually. I wasn't sure about it, but I think it's a really good list. I think there's very little in the list that doesn't contribute directly towards its game plan. So there's very little excess fat in the list. I really like the amount of control that Gearhart offers. and the combat alchemists offer quite a lot as well. And then it's a list that kind of screens with fails experiments, lets them take an alpha, and then the counter punch is just absolutely crazy. And then you can grind out using the death buff as protection. It's also a list that can't really be shot. I think the list was originally developed as a reply to Retribution Tridents, and so this list doesn't really get damaged by shooting from that. I think it might be a little bit vulnerable into something like Siege 1 with Electroleaps on Siege's feet turn. Then the Electroleaps can do a lot of damage because they don't count as ranged attacks. But apart from that, I think this is a list that has a very hard time taking damage from shooting. So the failed experiments. So we've got D-Cell from Baldwin. We've got Force Aura from the Ascendant Mentalists. The Assault Troopers have got Carapace, and the failed experiments have got Impervious Flesh. And so there's a lot of anti-shooting damage reduction, also tough on the failed experiments. So it feels like, super resilient to shooting and really, really quite effective in melee. So I'm looking forward to trying this list again. I've got another game coming up this week, which I shall also do a bat rep on, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. So see you on that one. Bye!